All right, good morning, guys. It's going to be our morning call for December 10th, 2021. We're going to get started with ES and NASDAQ as always. Then we're going to go into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then talk about some market news. So first off, the first headline for today that is making ES go up like this was that CPI data that we were waiting on. They were expecting a 0.7% increase in inflation. We saw a 0.8% increase. So it's about a 14% higher increase than expected, but it's basically right on line than as what they were expecting. So the inflation numbers are very bad. They're definitely horrible. They're the highest they've been in 40 years. But the funny thing with the market is, as long as it's right around expected, that means that it's most likely priced in. So the reason we're up about 0.5% here, 0.8% on NASDAQ, is because the market overall is saying, hey, that's priced in. It's basically right as expected. The other headline of that was 6.8% year over year increase. So that was also in line with expectations. It was a 0.5% on core, which was in line with expectations as well. And then 4.9% year over year on core inflation, also in line with expectations. So pretty much every single mark on the CPI was in line with expectations. Funny thing they did was last month, their expectations were very low, and we were up 50% from their expectations. That's why we had that nasty little nuke. This time, they raised the expectations a lot to be in line with last month. That's why we're not seeing that big of a discrepancy. So it's like, yes, it's a good thing that I was on expectations, but it's also a bad thing that inflation is going up so much. But a little bit of inflation is actually pretty good for the stock market. It helps the prices go up. But these numbers are pretty high, so I would not be surprised if we see a little morning pump like we did last time into an afternoon nuke. So be very careful trading today. I would not be getting trapped on either side. I would not be taking major positions. It's a Friday as well, so. Okay, let's take a look at ES. We had a nice little bounce off the monthly VWAP around 4661. We have the most important level today, which is 4710, which is about a 2-point move on SPY. So if we get up to 4710, keep an eye on that. Would be a little bit of resistance. Break above that, you're looking for all-time high 4740. Break below the monthly VWAP, you have the OTS trail at 4646. Break below that, and you're looking at the support around 4592. Okay, if we're looking at SPY, I still have my lottos that we took yesterday, which sadly they're most likely going to be worthless as soon as the bell rings. They were up 100% at the close. That's why I told you guys in my channel, if you want to lock in that profit, go ahead and do so. If you want to gamble for the CPI, hold on to them. I'm a gambling man, so I gambled for the CPI, and we're getting rugged on that. So we'll see if we can recover a little bit on that throughout the day if we get that little nasty sell-off in the afternoon. But so far, they're probably going to be worthless on the bell. But if we do get a little bit of a nuke, what I'm targeting is that SPY gap fill around 459. Now, because we're gapping up so much, we're gapping up like 3 points, my target is going to be closer to around 465, maybe 463. Moving on to NASDAQ, we are breaking above the VWAP. If it does get to that 16,435, that is the most important resistance of the day. Break above that, probably get 1660. That would be a pretty big level to get in one day, so you're probably not going to get that. It's a 2% move. But those are the two most important resistance levels. Now, breaking below VWAP, you want to look for 16,060, which is right around the OTS trail. And then if you break below that, probably somewhere around 15,950. Now, we're most likely not going to go that low. That would be also about a 2% failure. But you never know with days like today, so just be ready. All right, let's take a look at Bitcoin and Ethereum. They should be doing very well. Yeah, they are. So when you have high inflation numbers, Bitcoin is seen as a anti-inflation, inverse inflation, I guess you would say, asset. So if inflation goes up, well, I guess you would say it's correlated. So if inflation goes up, Bitcoin goes up. But Bitcoin, I think you're still looking at that target around 45.7. But you're hitting a little bit of resistance here at 50,000. If you break above that, look for the pivot around 52.8. But this wick target, they have very high strike rates. When you put in this nasty little liquidation wick, they very often want to be tested. Okay, so we did test the wick a little bit on this sell-off here, but not really enough to get down into those, that kind of like a trap area. They like to trap people down here in the lower wick. But if it does recover above this 50,200, then it will look slightly bullish into that pivot. Moving on to Ethereum, we did have the range high fail all the way back down to the range low, which is that double pivot there around 4,000. You are holding as support. It did front run it a little bit. You are bouncing above the middle of the range. So if you can hold above the middle of the range around 4,200, look for the range high again around 44. Okay. Above that, you're looking for 46. Below 4,000, you're looking for the monthly VWAP around 38.50. All right, let's move on to news. If you guys want to follow along and you're in the Discord, go to the archive channel. I did post the news. Give me 1 second. I'm going to open my door so the echo is not as bad. All right, the echo should be a little better. Still trying to get some furniture in my office so the echo is not horrible. Let's move on to some news. Let me pull up my phone here. We already went over the CPI data, so next headline is Broadcom, AVGO. They are up 7.1%, beating their EPS estimates, their guidance for their fiscal Q1 revenue above consensus. They also increased their quarterly dividend by 14%, and they're announcing a $10 billion share repurchase program. So AVGO, let's take a look. Yeah, they're gapping up massively here. 40-point gap up, about a 7% gain. Keep an eye on them. They're looking pretty strong. Weekly trend is pretty damn solid. All the buy the dips have been played out. You put in a weekly pivot and you're already breaking it. So this could be a gap and go, little run. Keep an eye on that. All right, next up we have Oracle, ORCL. They're up 11.4% after beating their top and bottom line estimates and increasing its share repurchase program by $10 billion. On a related note, the stock was upgraded to a buy by Deutsche Bank. That is ORCL. They are gapping up massively here. They were all the way down at 89. Now they're gapping up to 100, breaking the entire pullback of the last 3 months. Keep an eye on this. If this pulls back to retest the previous high, this could be a little entry point around 98. Next target on that, let's see. Next target on that would be around 104. All right, next up we have Costco. They're up 1.9% after beating their EPS estimates. Take a look. Not gapping up too hard, gapping up 10 points, bouncing off the trail and the monthly VWAP. If it does get above this 47 area, look for that high around 560. Next up, we have Lululemon. They're down about 1.4% after their Q4 revenue slightly below consensus. And the company, they did beat EPS. So the revenue's down, EPS is up. A little bit of a split earnings. They are down very slightly. Coming into a big support though, monthly VWAP around 412, and then you have the 200 EMA around 400 to 390. So keep an eye on those levels. Next up, we have Tesla down 1.2% as CEO Elon Musk continued to sell shares as previously committed and joked on Twitter about leaving his job to become an influencer. We're going to talk about a few of these headlines. Actually, here, I'm going to move these headlines so we can talk about them together. He tweeted that he's thinking of quitting my job and becoming an influencer full-time. What do you guys think? That's what he tweeted yesterday. So not looking too good. Tesla regulators are speaking with Tesla about faulty autopilot cameras as well. So a couple of bad headlines. Elon is one of those guys where he is great for the company because he's very innovative. He's very forward thinking, but he's a loose cannon. So shareholders, he definitely scares the shit out of shareholders when he tweets stuff like that. Doesn't seem like Tesla really cares. They're up about 5 points pre-market. You do have an OTS trail flipping red for the first time since June 21. So about, what, 6-7 months almost. So we have the OTS trail around 1097. If we can get above that, look for the VWAP around 1120. And then you're looking for the high around 1220, which is that doji gap. If you break this 50-day, which we're currently bouncing off of very slightly, you're looking for around 980, which is the low of that wick, or the gap fill around 910. Next up, we have AI. They received a $500 million 5-year production transaction agreement from the U.S. Department of Defense. This stock has been getting absolutely slammed, so maybe this could help them finally find a bottom. They have been getting destroyed ever since their IPO. They are bouncing a little bit. They bounced on earnings, and then they had a contract, so this very well could be a nice bottom on AI if you guys don't mind buying blood. Next target on that would be around 37, then the monthly VWAP around 45. Next up, we have Microsoft offered to bring their Xbox exclusive games to the iPhone. So that could be a nice little deal for them, getting their games on mobile. Not sure how that's going to work out, but decent news regardless. They are up about 2 points pre-market. If the CPI data doesn't nuke the day, you could see like 342, maybe 338 on Microsoft. Next up, we have, or actually that's it for the news. Here's the upgrades. First upgrade is Oracle. We talked about them earlier. Their target is going to be raised to 120, which I think was right around our target. What was our target? Our target's 105, so their target's a little higher than ours. Next up, we have Royal Caribbean, RCL. They got upgraded to a target of 80. I do not like the airlines or the cruise lines right now, to be honest. They are very risky investments. I would be very careful with these. But you do have a little gap fill play you could play on Royal Caribbean into that 78. You do have a lot of resistance above you. The pivot, the 200, the VWAP, the 50-day, pretty much everywhere from 80 to 83 is massive resistance. So watch out for that. Moving on to downgrades, we have Peloton. They got downgraded to a target of $50. Let's take a look. So that is actually still higher than where they are, about 20% higher, actually 25%. That is right around, that's inside the gap, right where the gap starts, really. They have a gap all the way from 57 all the way to 86. So huge gap fill play on that. Problem is, Peloton is getting absolutely destroyed. They had pretty bad supply chain issues all throughout COVID, which is when they should have shined, right? They should have sold out completely. They should have delivered all their products, got great reviews, and then destroyed their earnings, right? That didn't happen. They had really bad supply chain issues. They were back ordered for fucking 6 to 12 months. They were not delivering their products to their customers. They had that really bad news with the kid dying with the treadmill. It was bad news. So they got nuked. They lost their weekly pivot. You do have a weekly support around 32, which you're at 39 right now. Very likely could get down to that 32. If you do reclaim this pivot around 47, you do have the monthly view up around 54. If you can start holding above kind of like 50, then maybe you can start looking good again. But right now it's looking pretty rough. Next up, we have Love. We talked about Love yesterday. They got downgraded yesterday as well. They got downgraded to a target of 36, which is a little bit lower than the gap. The gap is at 41. So you break that gap, you're looking at 36, where their target is right around, I actually like that level. It's actually a good level. They usually give levels that make absolutely no sense. But this 36 level is actually pretty good. You have the resistance here turned into support. So if you do lose that gap fill, look for that 36. But all right, that is it for the news and the upgrades, downgrades. Let's take a look at my scanners. See if any names are popping up that we did not cover already. And let me also pull up the sector analysis, which I'm assuming everything is green. All right, sectors, let's see. Pretty much everything is green. The outperformer is energy. It's basically the outperformer almost every day. It's up 1.2%. The second biggest outperformer is technology. They're about 1%. Behind them is consumer cyclicals, up about 0.9. And then we have basic materials up 0.7. Looks like everything is green. Oh, actually, healthcare is down very slightly. Everything else is green. All right, let's take a look at the scanners. I'm seeing Costco. We already covered that. MDLZ, let's take a look. And not really up too much. A little bit of a gap. Could see the monthly VWAP around 6160. The energy sector, which we just talked about, they are moving pre-market. If it can break above these highs around 57.85, very close pre-market, you should be able to get around 58.50. MO is moving. We're actually holding leaps on this. Let's take a look. Yeah, decent move, not too bad. Breaking the highs of the past 3 days. What else do we have here? Kellogg, or this is Coca-Cola actually. Beautiful bulldog potential here. Look at the bulldog. Perfect curved back, perfect double bottom, popping up. Giving a little bit of a pullback. A little sooner than I would have liked. If it gave the pullback around like 56, would have been better. Let's see, what else do we have here? TLT is moving. This is the 20-year bond. It's up a little bit. How are the bonds doing, actually? The yields are down a little bit, down 2%. 1.7 on the 20-year. 10-year bond is up about 0.25%. Dixie is up barely. Putting in a pretty clean bull flag, though, here. VIX is down 9%, back below 20. That's very good. If we want to see a push into all-time high, we need VIX to be below 20. Let's go down to a lower time frame and see how ES is actually opening on the pre-market. So we had that big breakout pre-market. The signal on our bot would have been somewhere around here. So you had the buy signal, and then the strategy signal would have been somewhere around here, breaking VWAP. A lot of take profits, so you can see a lot of resistance was coming in throughout the entire move up. You were outside the second deviation, but you were inside the third deviation, which is a pretty healthy breakout. Once we lost the second deviation, you can see the breakout was losing steam, pulling back into VWAP, but we held on to VWAP and had that nice little breakout with the CPI news, and now we are actually pulling back into the open. So watch the opening bell. We could see a little pullback, or we could see a nasty trap where you push higher and then you nuke. If you go back to the old CPI, we ripped higher and then nuked by, like, what was it, 10:30? We sold off for like the rest of the day. So be careful. This inflation news is good and bad. It is good that it was right on expectations. So it looks like the market has priced it in. But it is bad because it's the worst inflation we've seen in 40 years. So you very well could see a nasty trap today. So like I said, if you are not comfortable trading very volatile, high risk, high reward moves, you probably should sit the day out. But all right, guys, I'm going to call it on that. Appreciate you guys being here for the morning call. If you're in Discord, I'm going to move over to the trading floor for the rest of the day. If you guys are on the stream, I'll see you guys at 3 p.m. Eastern. Peace out, guys.